When we first moved into this new campus, I thought, we've got enough space to last a long, long time. I didn't have like a time frame in mind, how many years, but I just thought it would be a long time. Now here it is, less than a year later, and we're realizing, oh my, God's timetable is moving a little faster than our timetable was. He built this huge campus with a vision for the future, and in less than a year, God has exceeded all that we could have asked or even imagined that he would do. I think about even our first service, our grand opening, when God filled our new campus 3 times, and our first Christmas on the new campus and the thousands of guests that people had. Our Marriage series where people renewed vows and we had this massive wedding. I think about our efforts to reach into the Latino community of Southern California in fresh ways. I think about a weekend where we asked people to write the name of someone that they want to see come to faith in Jesus Christ. I could go on because this has been a year of memories for me. I go home almost every weekend just shaking my head saying, God, thank you, thank you, thank you. What's happening right now and the lives are changing are because of faithful people like you. You sacrificed, you prayed like crazy, and God has honored your faith with so many changed lives, and these are some of those stories.
It's just been a tough life. Growing up, my stepdad was very abusive. The beatings was worse than anything you could ever imagine.
All my decisions were based on fear, anxiety, and probably guilt.
Allison really didn't have religion in her life at all. We would go to church, but it was for Christmas and for Easter, and we would go to the Catholic church with my family, but it was more about being with the family more than praising God.
Brenna came home that day, and we were sitting around the dinner table, and she said, I want to invite Jace to church.
Kids I was having a invite your friends to church month, and Jace was my friend, so I wanted to invite him so he can know Jesus.
When we moved out here to Orange, we had been looking to find a church that we felt comfortable with.
I was starting to get angry, at anything, work, home. It just felt to me like something was wrong with me, and I had to fix it. I was reaching, I don't know, for help or just was tired of everything.
Growing up not having any faith, at some point my mom got interested in finding a church. She went to Eastside and she had told me about this party on the plaza, and she said that I should go. And so we went.
We had the little invitation that the church had provided, and Brenna reached over the fence and invited Jace, and he was excited, and we talked to Carrie and Jason, and they agreed to go.
The new neighbors that I just gotten invited us to come down here. My first day at Eastside, race car on stage with a band and a video wall that is humongous, and I'm like, wow. It's like the church is talking to me saying, yeah, you found your church you need to be at.
We got there early every week, we enjoyed going, and it brought out conversation in our home that we had never had before.
The way that Jean was speaking about God, it was so relational, and that was very fresh for me.
In one of the services, Mike leaned over to me and asked me, what if this could be our home church? And that just opened everything up for me.
About a year and a half into them coming to church, Jean called for an impromptu baptism.
They kept flashing the words freedom across the screen, and my husband looked down, and coincidentally, he had a shirt on that said freedom. And so he felt like, hey man, now's the sign, I better get up and go.
He leaned forward and he put his arms around our shoulders and he said, thanks for inviting me. And then he got up and he walked down, and he was baptized that day.
I completely accepted God. I trust in him. I rely on him.
My life's just changed, My stress is relieved. My pain that I used to be going through isn't even as strong as it used to be.
The fact that they're new Christians and they're inviting people, and then those people are inviting people, and it's just this ripple effect that has been amazing to watch.
If the invitation hadn't come from Brenna, none of us would be there.
Going to Eastside has been one of the most exciting things in my life. What really sold me was the spark in Ellen.
I am much more confident, and when I go into Eastside, I'm the person that I always wanted to be.
It's affected every part of our life. It's made my marriage stronger. It's made me be a stronger parent, a better friend, and less critical of people.
This is my new life here. I'm involved with the staging, and I love that. And I want to get more involved with this place. Here, I feel like a new person.
One thing we know about the heart of God is he has a heart for all people, and so we know there's more that he wants to do. We removed a lot of obstacles when we moved to the new campus a year ago, but now all of a sudden some new obstacles are popping up. If we don't create more seats, if we don't create more space for our students and many of our great ministries, we're going to start restricting what I think the Holy Spirit wants to do among us. I'm standing in the midst of a second story of our building right now, over 70,000 feet up here, undeveloped, that can be a tool for ministry. It's never about a building. It's never about a classroom. It's never about brick and mortar. It's always about the vision of changed lives. And these are simply tools that God can use toward the greater purposes of transforming homes and transforming our community and transforming our world as we pursue Him and build community and unleash compassion. Here's what I'm asking every person to do, just as I'm doing myself and my family does. I'm asking you to just be open to what God wants to do. To pray specifically, God, are there resources you've entrusted to us that you want to use through me or through our family for the specific accomplishing of the vision that you've called Eastside to? Listen to God and then obey Him. Who are the people whose lives might be transformed forever because we provided room for them, we provided a space for them? Who are the kids who God's going to use and plant new dreams in their heart? We could really start making a difference in our community, but it takes every one of us, me included, saying, I'm in.
I am a steward.
I am a steward. I am steward.
I am a steward.
A steward is someone who manages someone else's stuff. God has blessed each one of us with a lot, our life, our money, our time, our abilities, to enjoy as we invest it all on His behalf.
What is God asking of me?
What is God asking of me?
What is God asking of me?
Bring a friend to church.
To share His word with others who don't know about Him.
To be the husband, father, and priest that God calls me to be.
God has been doing astonishing things here in recent years, and I've never seen anything like it. There's no question that we've been called in a special way to bless this community and to make a difference nationally and internationally. That call is to you as an individual along with me and every member of this parish. Each of us has talents and treasures to invest in the mission of this church. Every one of us is called to play an active part.
Build the pastoral care lay ministry.
Serve the working poor in the Granger ministry.
Teach Sunday school.
Mentor students at North Dallas High School.
Your leadership, practical service, and weekly giving towards our operating budget make all the difference, and without them we simply couldn't do what we do. Your sacrifices for the ministry of this church have been changing lives week in and week out.
Serve in the worship service.
Lead a high school small group.
Leave a legacy to the church.
Serve the homeless at Austin Street Center.
Pledge to the stewardship campaign.
We mustn't look back, and we aren't. We're already making plans to expand our ministries and pastoral care in exciting ways. To all of you who've sacrificed your time and money in the past year, I'd like to say thank you. I really appreciate it. The Bible teaches giving in proportion to the material blessings that we have received. If you're a giver, I hope you'll not just coast and give the same as you've given in the last 5 or 10 years, but talk to God and see if it's time to step up to the next level of personal commitment.
Teach financial stewardship at the pre-marriage weekend.
And we will increase our annual pledge this year by 5%.
If you haven't given in the last year, I hope you'll take the first step of discipleship by making a financial commitment, even a small or token one, to support the ministries of your church and fulfill God's calling. Spiritually, going from nothing to something is huge, and you will feel great about it, I promise.
I will follow Jesus and respect others.
To be open to be transformed by God. To do things through Him I've never done before.
What is God asking of me?
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 Are you taking time to listen to God? Are you praying for direction?
Join our journey as we grow deeper as disciples of Jesus to fulfill our calling as a church. We're excited about our future and all the ways we can serve God and His church with your leadership and financial support. What is God asking of you?
Eric, what are you doing?
Hey, Rustin! Hold on. I'm coming over.
What? Coming? Yeah.
What are you doing?
Dude, it's phase 1 of Compelled by Grace. They're taking down this building, the student building. It's time to go. Let's go.
Eric, that's not right now.
What are you talking about?
Compelled by Grace is kind of just getting going. So they've spray painted the concrete. They're marking out where everything's going. Everything's cooking along, but we're not breaking ground till October. And though we're all enthusiastic about Compelled by Grace, this is probably too much enthusiasm. I mean, I don't want people to think it's okay to just bring sledgehammers and start smashing through walls, which you've done here today. I still love you, man.
My name's Glenn Davenport, and we've been a member at Mount Pisgah for probably 12 years. In 2006, as I was planning to retire from a 33-year career, I was in a lot of prayer about what would I do in the next chapter of my life. And a few years earlier, I'd read a book by Bob Buford called Halftime. And Halftime is about going from success to significance. And so in that prayer time, I thought maybe I should be a full-time volunteer at the church. And so what I decided, through God's help of course, was that I would retire from that company, but continue to work and make investments and make money. But it was what I did with that money that would be different. And so I knew that we needed to have a defined plan that worked for us. Not for everybody, but it worked for us, a simple plan, and that was a 60-30-10 plan. And it was that 60% of our assets we would give away during our lifetime. 30% would be what we would live on, but when we passed away, what was left, if anything, would be given away. And 10% would be for our children. And then I knew that we needed to set our giving priorities. And we decided to pick a few things and kind of go deep versus a lot of things and be shallow. And our first priority has always been the church. You know, the reason that we decided to put Mount Pisgah Church first was because we believe that's what the Bible teaches. That we believe that's what the Crown Course taught us. And that was that our first priority should always be the church. And not just tithing, but also giving out of our assets. And we do believe that all that we have, not 10%, but that all that we have is really a blessing from God.
We'd always been in very traditional, conservative churches, and to go to Christ Central and walk in the door just felt like a different world.
I love the rawness, the authenticity. I know those words get overused, but it's happening.
Church is holy fellowship in which our God comes to meet us, and we meet Him in a peculiar and awesome way.
Christ Central's mission is freeing people to enjoy God, hear His truth, form authentic relationships, and face the world with the renewed dignity that comes from Christ.
Christ Central is a place that I would not deem as a pretentious environment. And so I think what that allows for is people to come, not feel like they have to put up a facade, act like they have everything together, but they come as broken sinners and they're able to experience the gospel, experience the grace of the gospel for what it is.
Before I came to the church, I was very much comfortable being, I guess you would call a solo Christian. What I learned at Christ Central is that you cannot be a solo Christian at all. Christ Central is a unique thing for me as a person that's from the South, that's attended church in segregated environments pretty much all my life. What God is doing at Christ Central by bringing people of different, obviously races, but also beliefs and all that stuff together to worship under Christ, that's been, to me, it's almost like a miracle.
Recently, within the last few weeks, I was just looking out and thinking, God is really doing something really incredible here, and you can just see it most tangibly for me in just the amount of children that are there.
What is it? It's a group of something. And right now, we would be like a flock of sheep.
The thing that I see and that I love is there is an explosion of kids. We always joke about it, but life is everywhere.
God is kind of saying, hey, we need a place for these kids to go. We need a ministry that will invest in the lives of these children. We've outgrown our building 4 times in 10 years. The space doesn't work for us. Whether it's a lack of heating, air conditioning, whether there's a rodent problem, we've had those problems a number of times. When we hit these walls, the church plateaus. So we grow numerically, we grow with vision and desire, and then we have to pull back. It's definitely time for us to grow up as a church, and that involves really being a stable home for people.
Really, when you look at the history of our church, I think you can divide it up into 3 different eras. That first section of time, I would call it flexibility. That's when those first original families, those 7 families got together and started the church in the Bait House. And from that moment all the way to this day, there's been this unbelievable flexibility of our people, willing to change services to balance out our hours. I remember when we ran out of space completely on Sunday, and we presented the ideal of a Saturday night service, which was really bizarre back then. Nobody really was doing that. And 200 of our people said, yeah, I'll do that. I'll go to Saturday night if it will make room for somebody on Sunday morning. And then we ran out of parking spaces, and people were willing to take a parking shuttle. And then we ran out of a life group space, and people said, yeah, we'll be willing to move off-site, go to elementary school, go to high school, and meet for life groups. There was just so much flexibility. And then it was around 1996, we hit a wall. And we tried everything we could do to provide more space for the people that we were reaching, and couldn't borrow any more money, couldn't really hold any more service. There were no more optimum times. And then God provided our current site on Interstate 30 for our Rockwall campus. And we moved from a 1,300 seat auditorium to a 5,000 seat auditorium. And we were able to buy that facility because it was in bankruptcy for $4 million, just a little over $4 million. And it was a $21 million facility. I mean, it was just a miracle that God gave us. But you know, it was at that time, it was kind of funny. God not only gave us a bigger facility, but God also gave us a bigger vision at that time. I think up to that point, up to 1996, we had a vision for the Lake Ray Hubbard community, but we didn't really have a vision for our nation, certainly didn't have for the world. And we began to get involved in missions. I remember we went to China, and then after that, we established a relationship with a church in Chelny, Russia, and then it was Africa, and then it was Mexico. And God just kept on expanding our vision to Egypt and other places. And all the time that he was leading us to do that, he also was opening our eyes to the need to plant new churches in the United States. We sent our first church planter to New York City, and he was on the ground when the planes hit the towers. And he was right there. I think it was a God thing that he was there and ready to build the foundation for that first national church plant right when all that was going on with our nation. Of course, since that time, we've started a second church in New York City, and we started one in Las Vegas, and one in Portland, and one in Tampa. And of course, you know, we've got 3 churches now that we're starting in San Francisco and one in Colorado. And our newest church plant is in Boston. In fact, this is Andy Wood, and Andy is planning was the first church planter in San Francisco. You've been there about how long now, Andy?
We've been going for about 2.5 years now.
Yeah. And when you guys started, how many folks were a part of your core?
There were actually 3 families that moved across the country to be a part of our team.
Okay, and three families. So last Sunday, how many did you guys have in service?
We had 650 people this past Sunday.
650 people. That's cool. And probably more than that is that those individual stories that I've heard you tell me about lives that have been changed. Just share with the group, if you will, about one of those stories.
Yeah, one gal I think about is a girl named Gemma, who recently gave her life to Christ. Her mom committed suicide, her dad abandoned her, and she felt really broken. Started coming to South Bay earlier this year, committed her life to Christ, and just got baptized.
That's great. It's just amazing to me that God would use us here so far away from where you guys are to send teams, to do coaching, to give financial resources, and for a life to be changed in the San Francisco Bay Area. And that's just about how big God's love is and the privilege we have of being a part of what he's doing. Last 15 years at our Rockwall site, we've also opened up campuses, obviously, in Garland and in Mesquite, and now we have one in Forney. For over a decade now, we've had significant work in the Dawson State Prison. And it blows my mind what God has done through the people of Lake Point in just the last 15 years once our vision was enlarged. And here's the sense that I have right now. My sense is that God is going to enlarge our vision once again, that he wants to stretch us. He wants to take us new places that are just as profound as where he's taken us in the last 15 years. And so the question that I'm asking these days is, what's next? What, God, do you want us to be involved in? Where are you working that you want us just to come alongside and participate? That's the question that I think we have to get the answer to, and that's, what's next?
In order to go beyond, I'm going to give 10% of my allowance back to the church.
In
In order to go beyond, I'm going to sell my PS3 and give the money back to God.
In order to go beyond, I'm going to donate half of my babysitting money to the church and other organizations.
I'm going to give half my allowance and all my coins to the church, and I'm going to read the Bible.
As a part of Beyond, and with my job and with my income, I just plan on giving more and more frequently. I feel like that's really going to take me beyond my comfort zone for money and income.
From what I learned from Beyond, I'm committed to give $1,000 to the church in 2014. God's touched my heart, and Beyond has really impacted my life.
Let's go beyond.
In order to go beyond, I'm going to donate 10% of my Christmas money back to the church.
I'm going to share my toys with my friends.
For a part of Beyond, I'm giving away my sport cards.
As a part of Beyond, I'm going to give away some of my clothes.
For my Beyond commitment, I'm doing Operation Christmas Child, and I'm going to donate $20 to Africa for the kids there.
Let's go beyond!
My commitment to go beyond is to start visiting a nursing home and try to cheer the people up by doing nice things for them. My beyond commitment is that when I mow the lawn, my dad will give me money and I will donate the money to the church. In order to go beyond, I will donate stuff to Goodwill.
Through the things that I saw when I was collecting donations and money for my trip to Guatemala last summer, I saw the potential that people could have in giving up their time and money just to help for a good cause. And so through going beyond, I want to not only give up my time and money for better things, I want to encourage others to give up their time and money just around church and around our culture and around Naperville.
Let's go beyond! I'm going to share my toys with friends that don't have toys. Beyond means if you do something for your mom and dad, like put your socks on and you put your socks and shoes on, that means beyond because you did 2 things instead of 1. I'm gonna give money to people and I'm gonna give my toys to people who don't have toys. And I'm gonna play with God to spend my time with friends.
Our generation